give people one more minute to join, since most people will likely be joining right this second. Um, and as new people join, just say hi in the chat box and let us know where you're located. City, state. We've got multiple states represented. We've got great Jessica, Nashville, wonderful. We've got Rebecca, New York City. Maged, I hope I said that right, from New Jersey. We've got LA. Hi, David. Oh my good. Oh, Chappaqua. Hi, Gladys. And we've got Carol in New York City. I went to high school in Chappaqua. Okay, wonderful. Let me see. It's 12:01. So we have got we've got 40 people. One final call for those of you that just joined. Say hello in the chat box. Where are you located? And then I am going to jump in. So we've got over 40 people right now, so this is good. Okay, so let's start. So my name, we've got New Hampshire. Okay, the states just keep going on. Hi, David. Hi, Jillian. Okay, I'm going to stop the chat. This is fun, but oh my goodness. Colombia, Bogota, Chicago, Audrey, Sally, Katie, LA. Hello to all of you. Okay, gotta go. We only have 30 minutes. So I am Barbara Phillips. I'm a career transition and encore coach at Partners International. The webinar today is Building Resilience During Uncertain Times, 5 Effective Strategies. Let me just get my mouse here. Okay, so for those of you that don't know Partners International, we're a woman-founded and owned a company that for 25 years has been supporting the entire life cycle of an employee's corporate journey, starting on the right with executive search. We also do executive coaching and onboarding and talent development, mobility, retirement, and career transition. So we are sponsoring this 30-minute complimentary webinar. You are all on mute. Questions can be asked in the chat box, and most of you have said hello there, which is great. After today's webinar, you'll receive a one-page overview of the webinar and a link to complete a survey. And if you'd like more information about Partners International, there is an email address for you. So I want to start with an acknowledgement of the emotional responses that you may be having in this new normal. You know, we have a lot of states represented. About 75% of the states, I believe, are in stay-at-home mode right now, but that means 25% are not. So we may be in some different places depending on what state that we're living in, but for most of us, this is a really big change. Our worlds have been turned upside down, and uncertainty is the new norm, and things keep changing on a daily, if not hourly basis. So if you are feeling greater anxiety and fear right now, you are not alone. This is a normal response to what is happening right now. And while we can't predict how long this will last, we do know that it will end. We really encourage you to focus on taking good care of yourself and your loved ones as your top priority, and to be gentle with yourself if you're not feeling as productive as you would like. We encourage you to activate your personal social network virtually to reduce any feelings of social isolation, and do your best to stay calm and in the present. Breathe. And when I say breathe, I mean consciously take in a breath and then let it go, because this calms our nervous system. I do this many times throughout the day as a way to just get back to center, to be here now. Consider financial contingency planning for the near term, just in case. But know that we will get through this together one day at a time. So here are the objectives. We're going to define resilience. What are characteristics of resilient people? Typical reactions to change. 5 strategies to build resilience. And then we'll end with some final tips. So resilience, it is the capacity to recover quickly from or adjust easily to difficulties or change. It's the ability to bounce back. We all know what it feels like when we're operating at our most confident best self. And in times of change, depending on the degree of the change, we're thrown off balance. We feel uncentered. And by leveraging strategies to build resilience, we're able to feel more balanced and centered. And resilience during times of change and ambiguity is the ability to sustain both strength and flexibility. So the strength, this pandemic is requiring us to dig really deep, to tap into our inner strengths and resources, maybe deeper than we ever have before. It's requiring us to be focused and persistent and vigilant as we implement new hand washing practices and adhere to local social distancing guidelines. On the flexibility side, the stress of the change can, if we are not careful, cause us to become more rigid emotionally, mentally, and even physically as we go about our daily lives. So it's important to remain as flexible and adaptable as we can as the situation evolves. And a metaphor I like to use, here's a blade of grass and it has roots underneath it that are in the ground holding it in place. And a strong wind comes and that blade of grass blows back and forth. It's flexible, it's adapting, but those roots, that strength is holding it in place. So characteristics of resilient people. They view difficult periods as temporary versus permanent. It's the this too shall pass mindset. It's a question of when, but this is not forever and it will end. And we all have experiences of adversity and challenge in our lives that we have made it through to the other side from, and we can do the same with this current pandemic. Resilient people think about solutions rather than focusing on problems. We are being asked to be really creative and resourceful in this situation, given the many constraints that are in place for many of us. A lot of us are working from home. Some of us have kids that are being schooled via technology. Some of us have elderly people in our lives that we're concerned about. So given these challenges, think about how you can best adapt. How can you make lemonade out of the lemons? And full disclosure, I cut my own hair 2 days ago. And I'm not recommending that you do that. That is not feasible for a lot of people, but that is being resourceful. Keep problems in perspective. I think of this as having a meta view of yourself in your life right now. It's as if you were, looking down on yourself and your life and seeing what is going on now as a blip in the scheme of your life. And it's absolutely an intense blip, but it had a beginning and it will have an end. So think about how you can assume the role of witness, a little bit more detached in your perspective, as a way to put the situation in perspective. Resilient people identify specific actions to move forward and they take those actions. Now, if you're working from home, you are in action. If you've got kids that are now at home, you are in action. Many of us had to set up a home office and figure out all this technology. I mean, I'm in my apartment in New York City right now, and I have learned how to do this webinar from my home. So think about what are the specific actions you can take to keep yourself moving forward. And then finally, resilient people ask for help. I have coached so many people over the years, and what I have found is that most people either don't like to ask for help or they're very uncomfortable asking for help because we feel vulnerable. We might feel weak when we reach out to other people. You know, we're supposed to be self-reliant. You know, I can do it myself attitude. And resilient people know their limits and they reach out to others for guidance and support. And now more than ever, this is key to manage this situation. So I'm going to make a really quick distinction here between change and transition, because we often use those terms interchangeably, but they are different. So change is an event that happens outside of us. It's usually tangible and concrete. So in this situation right now, the change is the pandemic. It's the impact of the pandemic on the economy. It's social distancing guidelines. That is the change. The transition is our response to that change. It happens inside of us. It's usually intangible, although it can show up in our behavior, and it's different for each individual. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning while in a concentration camp, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And it is in that space that our power lies. The stimulus is the change, but we have control and influence over how we respond. And so people don't struggle with the change as much as what is going on inside of them and managing that, our thoughts, our emotions. So William Bridges has done a lot of research on change and transition, and he has developed a very simple model for thinking about change and transition. So this slide shows the change. Something ends. Something ends. And in this case, for many of us, it's our life as we knew it. And it requires us to let go of something that was stable and known and dependable. And we're now in the neutral zone. We're hanging in midair without orientation to the past or the future, because our future way of life is on hold for many of us, and we don't know with certainty when it's going to end. And this can be a very emotionally up and down roller coaster. And some days you might feel confident about moving forward and you're in action, and other days you may feel discouraged or overwhelmed, and it can be a very uncomfortable place to be. And the new beginning is when life gets back to normal, but we don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know what that looks like, and that uncertainty is part of the challenge of being in the neutral zone. And also the arrow suggests this is a very neat linear process, and it's not. You can go back and forth, but ultimately it shows you that this will be resolved when the new beginning starts. And then different people are at different stages at different times. So now for the transition part of William Bridges' research, what's going on inside of us? And he's identified 4 emotional psychological phases, beginning with denial, then resistance, then exploration, and then commitment. And we'll dig a little deeper on those. So denial. Denial could literally be denial, like this isn't happening, or downplaying what is going on, or avoiding it, or not wanting to deal with it. And we have seen this play out across the country in various places. So that is literal denial. And then, even if we are acknowledging what is going on, it is a shock. It's a shock to our systems. Our whole lives have been turned upside down for many of us. And shock is our body and psyche's way of protecting us when something big is going on. And it shows up as feeling confused. We might feel like we want to withdraw more. It shows up in behavior as maybe being disorganized or missing deadlines. I mean, I've certainly experienced that in the last few weeks where I'm just not on my game like I was before all of this started. Resistance. This is where all the feelings are. You know, once we move through that shock layer, now there's fear, there's anxiety, sadness, maybe anger, or we just don't feel motivated. And it can show up as frustration or negativity. And I certainly have felt on edge at certain times during the last few weeks. You know, for me personally, when that market dropped, you know, I was on edge, as I'm sure many of you might have been as well. And so it's normal and expected to have these feelings, and the challenge is learning how to better manage them. We then move into the exploration phase, and this is where we are actually starting to adapt to the current reality by tapping into our inner strengths, our creativity. We're staying in motion. We're exploring what's possible. It's saying like, okay, I can't do X, but what can I do? How can I adapt given the limitations that are on my life right now? And then ultimately, we move to commitment. You know, we have adjusted to what is going on. My best guess is there's probably not a lot of us in this phase right now because we don't know when this is going to end. And so I think when we have a sense of, okay, we're over the hardest part, you know, of what they've been calling the surge, and when we can see more light at the end of the tunnel, I think we will all start to feel more hopeful and optimistic. So I have been in the shock phase, the resistance phase, the exploration phase, and I want to ask you, where are you right now? Which phase are you in? Which phase have you been in? You can be in more than one phase at the same time. You can be in exploration one day, and then depending on what the news tells us, we go back to resistance the following day. So this is just a way, a model to give you a sense of how people typically react to change. So strategies. Focus on what you can control, and also know what you can't control. So we can't control the virus. We can't control the directive to maintain social distance. We can't control having to stay home if that's what our state or locality has told us to do. But within those confines, focus on all the things that you can control each and every day. So it's shifting your focus from, I feel overwhelmed, to, I can control A, B, and C. And examples of what you can control. You can control how you spend your time. You can control how you manage your energy. You can control how you are developing these new safe practices that we've all heard so much about. You can control how much you are plugged into the news cycle. And if it's affecting you adversely, you minimize that plugging in. And you can develop a new routine given that our old routine has been upended. And it's really important to create sufficient structure and routine in your life when you're feeling out of control and maybe even helpless. So channel your fear and anxiety into what you can do, because having a sense of control can lessen your anxiety. The second strategy is reflect on past successes where you have managed change. So as I said earlier, we've all experienced struggle, challenge, adversity. And we've all made it to the other side. We are all sitting here right now. And it can be helpful to identify one or two situations in your life in the past where it was really difficult for you. And to ask yourself, what inner strengths did I draw on? What resources did I use? How did I get the support that I needed? And then the most important question is, how can I use that information to help me manage this change now? The third strategy is to manage your mindset and emotions. It's really important to pay attention to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. So let's start with the thinking. If you get caught up in negative thinking, like, I can't do this, this is too hard, this will never end, ask yourself, does this mindset serve you? Is it helpful? Don't let yourself get dragged down by negative or catastrophic thinking. And by the way, we're in a fight or flight mode right now. Our survival literally is in play because we're fearful about ourselves and our loved ones maybe getting the virus. And so our body is in fight and flight mode, and we are on alert. And our minds typically default to negative thinking anyway. And so it's really important to pay attention to, what am I thinking? Is this helpful? And switch your focus. Get into physical action. You know, if you're sitting on the couch and you're going down that rabbit hole, get up. I mean, I just go in the kitchen, wash the dishes, move. You don't have to give your thoughts a lot of attention. We have some influence and control over that. And how we talk to ourselves matters. You can say to yourself, I can get through this. I am getting through this. I will take on this challenge one day at a time. Choose to focus on the positive rather than that normal default to the negative. And then with the feelings, acknowledge what you're feeling. All those feelings we talked about, we're all feeling them. I heard a psychologist say a couple days ago, name it to tame it. I am feeling afraid right now. I am feeling anxious right now. And let it run through you. Feelings are like the weather. They change. It's sunny, it's rainy, it's overcast. And talk about how you're feeling with people that you trust, because that can also help to release the feeling. The fourth strategy is create a support structure. And we've talked about this, you know, in this era of social distancing and working from home, it's really important to connect with other people virtually and remember that resilient people ask for support. I read that the telecommunication companies, Verizon, AT&T, et cetera, they said that activity is the highest they have ever seen. So it sounds like a lot of people in the country are taking advantage of that. The final strategy is increasing your self-care practices. During this time of significant stress, I would suggest that the most important thing you can do for yourself is to focus on self-care. And I would also suggest that this situation calls for radical self-care. It's important that you give yourself permission to do this. I know that particularly in the generation before mine, you know, focusing on yourself is viewed as selfish. And this is key. And think about when you're on a plane and the flight attendants are talking about the oxygen mask coming down. And if you're with a small child, you put the mask on yourself and then you put it on the child. Because if we don't take care of ourselves first, in the best sense of that concept, we will not be able to be effective with other people in our lives. So pay attention to your physical, your mental, your emotional, and spiritual needs. Identify useful practices that work for you. So for your physical needs, your body, exercise, movement, increase your heart rate to discharge stress. And if gyms and yoga studios are closed, go for a walk. Consider online yoga. I heard someone recommend yesterday, use household items as weights if you are a weightlifter. That's being creative and resourceful. And ensure you're getting enough sleep, because significant stress saps our energy. On the emotional side, we've talked about the connection. Laughter. If you have a pet, that's a great thing during a time like this. Your mind. We've talked some about that, how to pay attention, but it's also allowing yourself some downtime to rest and to restore, focusing on a hobby or whatever it is that allows you to be in the flow. And then your spiritual self, whatever that means to you. It could be your faith, it could be meditation, it could be getting out in nature if possible while practicing social distancing. And in really tough moments, just stop what you're doing. When I was in the intensity of this for myself, I would do this often. Just stop moving, take a deep breath to calm yourself, get present, and then start again slowly. So final tips, gratitude. Be appreciative and grateful for everything that is working right now. Focus on what you do have, not what you don't have. Knock on wood, food on the table, a roof over our heads, people in our lives that we love and that love us. And if you can develop a practice, meaning doing this consistently, regularly, like when you wake up, take 30 seconds. What am I grateful for? Throughout the day, 30 seconds. What am I grateful for at night? So I'm going to share an example of gratitude with you. This may be happening in other places, but in New York City, every night at 7 o'clock, we open our windows and we clap and we yell and we bang on instruments or pots and pans to thank all the essential workers who are putting themselves at risk right now by serving us. The bus drivers, the grocery store cashiers, and especially the thousands of medical workers who are putting themselves at risk each and every day. And I yell out my window every night at 7 o'clock, and you hear everyone yelling up and down the street, and it reverberates off the buildings, and it feels so good to express my gratitude. Ask yourself, how can I be more flexible with this change? You know, I think of Darwin, who in his theory of evolution, he coined the phrase survival of the fittest. And fittest doesn't mean strongest. Fittest means those that are most adaptable to an ever-changing environment. So how can you be more flexible and adaptable? How can you better accept what is going on? You don't have to like it, but how can you accept it? Because right now, it is what it is. It is what it is. So how can you leverage your control over the part of your life where you have control? What good might there be in this change for me? You know, this is silver linings. And if you look, you can probably find some. You know, whether it's not having to deal with a commute or having more time with your family. One example for me, on Saturday night, the busiest night in New York City, I opened my windows and it was quiet. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And by the way, the air is probably cleaner because there's no traffic. And I just stood in my window for a few minutes and just really appreciated that. So look for silver linings. And then what can you learn from this? So finally, be gentle on yourself, with yourself. Celebrate every positive action you take and every small success you have. This is not a time to expect perfection. Good enough is good enough. We're all doing the best we can. Be careful of being too hard on yourself. Have compassion for yourself as you do your best to navigate this change. So I'm going to leave you with a quote, Martin Luther King. Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. So I'm going to move to the final slide, and then I will see if there are any questions in the chat box. Thank you for being here today. As I said earlier, you'll get a one-page overview, a link to complete a survey, and we will send you a link for an upcoming webinar, Virtual Presence, that we are sponsoring on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And again, if you want to reach out to Partners International for any reason, there is your link. And I'm looking at the time, it's 12:30. So some of you may need to leave. Perfectly fine. If you want to stay on for a few more minutes, 5 or so minutes, great. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions in chat. So again, thank you all for being here. I hope that you got some value from this webinar, and I wish you all the best. Be well, be safe. So now I'll look in the chat box. Oh, thank you. This was great. Many, many thanks. Great job. Oh, there. Hi, Jay. Oh, there's my sister. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, just what you needed. I'm so happy. Just in time. That's great. Myself. Thank you for the support in yourself. Haircut looks great. Thanks. Yeah, I've cut my hair in the past, so it wasn't a brand new thing for me to do, but thank you, Michael. Thank you. Okay, no question. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Okay. Hi, Ash. Okay, no questions. Lots of thanks. Thanks right back to all of you for being here. Okay, hi, Gladys. Bye, Gladys. Wonderful. Thank you, Wynn. Rebecca and Barbara and Elise, yes. So love and strength to all on the call. Can someone else view this? Can someone else view this? Does that mean, will it be recorded? It is being recorded, I believe. And so there's a link. You are so informative to take another hope to take another course soon. Great. This is the third one we've done of 4. We did one on stress, achieving focus, managing virtual teams. Can you email the link? Not sure what that means. If it's the link to the upcoming webinar, you will get that. Yes. Is there a link for my coworkers? Oh, great. Yeah, you know, that's a great idea. Once this is recorded, I'll find out what we can do with it. My best guess is it can be sent to other people, but let me understand the parameters. I took the one on stress. It was great, wonderful. Oh, great. Hi, Carol. Please send an email to Partners and we can send a link for the recording. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so it's about 12:33, and since there are no questions, I think people, let me see who's left. There's still 26 people on the line. Anyone have a question? Anyone have another question? Okay, the numbers are going down. I'll just wait till the numbers go down just to ensure there's no more questions. Do you know when the one page is available? I'm going to defer to my colleague to let us know. It will be emailed later today. There you go. It'll be emailed later today. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sally. Bye. Okay. There's still people. Okay. 15 people. Any other questions? Thank you. Be well. Be safe. Still down to 12. Okay, we have some hangers on, but no questions, which is fine. Okay, so since it is 12:34, oh, let's connect. Great, Jay, thank you. Okay, we're down to 9 people. I will be closing out shortly, giving a number of you one final chance to say something before we leave. Okay, I think we're going to leave. Goodbye, everyone. Be safe. Be well. You know, having a sister on can be a little dangerous. Oh my goodness. Okay, bye everybody.